Hey guys, welcome into Faith in Football. My name is Neil. We are ready. Well, some of you still might have a couple of drafts to do, but for the majority of us, the draft season is over and it's about to get real. So make sure that you're tuning in every Thursday to make sure that you catch my start sit episode, as well as every Tuesday, we're going to have a weekend roundup and waiver wire pickups that you need to be watching for. Guys that might be injured that you didn't know about, guys that are available that you might not think of. So I'm going to be trying to give you all the insights that I can possibly muster and get to you to make you dominate your league this year. So welcome in. If y'all missed it, I apologize. We did not go live last night at my league of record draft, but what we did do is we did have a great time. And I encourage you that if you are in a league where a lot of your guys are local, either you work with them, they're friends of yours, things like that, that you take time to at least draft together, physically draft together, get in one location, whether it's somebody's house, whether you go to, a restaurant or whatever, go spend time together and make sure that you get that fellowship, that you get that camaraderie, because that is what fantasy football is all about, is the camaraderie of the league. Okay, so you can only get that face to face, like the Bible tells us, forsake not the gathering together of yourselves. Now, they're talking about church. I'm talking about fellowship with your fellow fantasy football players, but who says that they have to be different? Okay. It's the same thing. You can still witness, you can still show the guys that you're playing with, even if they're not saved, even if they're not followers of Christ, that there's something different in you and you can make an example for the others. So, what are we talking about today? We're talking about start sit, and we're going to highlight what happened last night in our draft. We're going to show you the draft board. We're going to run through a couple of guys that, one, you know him, you love him. He was Blaze. He was on my mock draft episode, and we're going to see how he did in his first ever mock draft. We're also going to be highlighting my boy Thomas, who he had the first overall pick. It wasn't where he wanted to draft, but he made the most of it. And I think he came out with a pretty decent squad. We'll let you take a look at it and you can decide for yourself. Now, remember, down to the bottom, so you can tell me how you think everybody did. Make sure that you subscribe, like, and share, and please drop a comment in and let me know your thoughts on how the draft board worked out. I'm going to put it up there. You guys can take a look at it if you're on YouTube and you're listening or you're watching. If you're driving, don't watch, just listen. Don't want any wrecks. Okay. So today, like I said, we're talking about start sets. Now, here's the thing. Every single fantasy player thinks that they had the best draft and they think that their team is the one to win the championship. So here's what we're talking about today. Champ versus chump. Now, for those of you who are seasoned as I am, and I've said this before, you're going to harken back to a day where, we didn't have social media, but I grew up in the 80s, and growing up in the 80s, that's when hip hop and rap music really kind of took hold of the overall population. Okay, it really hit mainstream then, and it got its roots. So, of course, I did listen to rap when I was in high school and middle school, and of course, my dad hated it. Okay, he used to tell me that the only difference between rap and crap was one letter. Now, he was being facetious and trying to be funny, but when you look at champ versus chump, the difference is only one letter. Now, that letter in chump is you. So, are you being the chump or are you going to be a champ? Now, the difference between chump and champ is maturity. Okay. Not just the one letter, but maturity. See, a lot of times you're going to find these guys who are out there who they're going to talk a big game, but they've never done anything. It hasn't come to them yet. Okay. If you look up the definition, a chump is defined as a foolish or easily deceived person. If you look at champ, it is shorthand for champion, which means victor or winner. So a champ has already done it. They've already won. They've proven that they can get to the highest spot in their field and win, or at least accomplish the end goal. Okay. So if we look in the Bible, one of the biggest champ versus chumps, of course, is David versus Goliath. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, well, yeah, we know that David is a champ and, Goliath was a chump, but think back to when this was actually happening. See, David didn't have the Bible to know how the story ended. Okay. In his heart, he knew that he was a champ. Why? He told Saul, he told him, I've already defeated a lion and a bear, and I've killed and I've defended my flock when he was watching his father's sheep. He already faced the enemy. He already knew that he could do it. And he was the only one that mattered. He knew it, God knew it, and that was it. Now, the world will look at people and think that they're a champ because of their size, because of their status, because of their wealth, because of their accomplishments, whatever the case may be. But in God's eyes, they are a chump because they're not doing what God intended for them to do. They're doing for themselves. So who the world may view as a champ, God views as a chump, and vice versa. Now, if we look, you want scripture for this, I got you. Okay. 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verses 18 and 19 reads as this. Stop deceiving yourselves if you think you are wise by this world's standards. You need to become a fool to be truly wise. For the wisdom of this world is foolishness to God. As the scripture says, he traps the wise in the snare of their own cleverness. So this world, you may think that you're clever, you may think that you're wise, but in God's eyes, you are foolish. And a fool in this world, to God, is wise. Now, I'm going to let you guys chew on that. I'm going to let you guys delve into that a little deeper for yourselves and what that means for your own specific situation. But I will tell you this, is that when you look at others, especially in fantasy football, you're going to look at somebody else's draft picks and go, man, what were they thinking? Now, sometimes that's true. They're new. They don't know any better. They made the best selection that they could. Now, you can either criticize, make fun of, or you can give them a hand. Same way in life. You can look at someone's situation and go, man, I can't believe they did that. Man, I can't believe that they're going down that road. Well, instead of standing on the sideline and criticizing, get in the game. Give them a hand. Reach out to them. Maybe they're going through things. Maybe they didn't have the same upbringing as you. Maybe they didn't have the same opportunities as you. Maybe God put them in your path for you to help them. So think about that the next time that you're going around and you see somebody in a bad situation. Stop, lend a hand, and be a champ, not a chump. Okay? So we're going to get into the start sets. And before we do that, we're going to take a look at what happened last night at the draft, at Zia, in the back room, at the VIP room. Guys, we had an awesome time. It was great. Loved being there. Had big screen TV, had the draft board up on it. It was phenomenal. It was really cool. It was like being, for those of you who remember when the draft used to take place at Radio City Music Hall in New York, it was just like being there and, having the picks up on the screen and, being able to make fun of guys who, were making picks and going, man, what are you doing? So it was fun to do that in person. And I have reached out to a couple of league mates and I've asked their permission to go over these. So when we go over Blaze's and we go over Thomas's, they've given me permission to go over their draft picks, and we're gonna look at them. I'm be honest with you, Blaze didn't do too bad. Okay, it could have been a lot worse, but he didn't do bad. There are a few things down toward the end that we're gonna go over that a lot of people, seasoned veterans like myself, also seem to forget at times when they draft and they're dealing with injured players. So before we get into start sets, let's go ahead and take a look at this. This is our draft board from last night. So here we go. So as you see, like I said, I'm right here. I had the 5th. I went hero RB build, similar to what I did when Blaze and I did our episode. Blaze got the 3rd pick and Thomas here got the 1st. Now we're also going to be touching on Billy's team. He made a couple boo-boos, but we're gonna forgive him because he was recently in an accident. So I think he was kind of hurting. So we're gonna blame that on the painkillers that he's on, and not him. So we see here with Blaze, 1st pick, Tyreek Hill. Now Thomas took CD Lamb, and then of course McCaffrey was off the board, and then we went to Blaze with Tyreek Hill. Excellent pick. It went very chalk. Okay. When I say chalk, I mean as it was intended. Like when you write out a sheet, when you write out like a bracket, everybody has like who should be going forward in a bracket because of talent. This is how the board should work out in the first 3 picks. And it could be either one of these flip-flop. I've seen both of them. I've seen Tyreek Hill go 1. It depends on what your build is and what your beliefs are. So Tyreek Hill at 1, Chris Olave in the 2nd, Josh Jacobs with the 3rd. So really strong start. I like Jacobs. I was going to be considering him if Barkley hadn't fallen as far as he did. I was actually very surprised that Barkley did not go somewhere in this area down here in the beginning of the 2nd. Devon Achane went a little early, and Mostert went way early. Mostert probably should have been somewhere around the Tony Pollard, Kenneth Walker rounds, so somewhere in the 5th or the 6th is where we were looking for Mostert to go. But Monkey Man here, who is Marshall, he decided that he was going to reach up and grab a Miami running back. So no fault there. That's his belief. That's what his conviction is. So we're going to let that go. Now, he did reach up and grab CJ Stroud way early. He probably could have gotten Stroud a little bit later down here. Where you got Mixon. But hey, if you got a belief in a player, go get him. Okay. So he went wide receiver, running back. So he went kind of a 0 RB build, which is what he was doing in our mock draft. So that's probably where he got that from. And then Joe Mixon down here. Now, Joe Mixon has fell in our draft farther than he had in the mock drafts that I've done. And the mock drafts that I've done, he's gone probably like 3rd, 4th round. So he fell a couple of rounds here. So that was good. And then Kyle Pitts, we see that, let's see. Kelsey was the first off the board, then Laporta, then Kittle. And that was kind of surprising that Kittle went for McBride. I actually was going to target McBride, but I purposed it that I did not want to take McBride in the 4th, even though I know that's where he was going. I did not want to skip over a talent like Malik Neighbors, um, like a Jalen Waddle, that I could have taken in the fourth round. Um, so I went ahead and snatched him up there. Um, I kind of missed out on tight end, but I'm fine missing out on those top guys. I did get the very end of the draft where Brock Bowers fell precipitously. Um, he went after Firemouth, after Goddard. So I took the rookie, hoping that he is going to pay off for me later on. Um, and then we see Blaze took Joe Burrow as his second. Now he's got two really strong quarterbacks. The only problem with that is that we happen to be a one quarterback league. So he can do one of two things here. He could hold on to these two quarterbacks in case somebody doesn't go, and like in case Burrow gets hurt again. Um, my advice to him is to go and see if he can get possibly uh another wide receiver, like a top flight wide receiver for Joe Burrow. Um, the one thing that I would not do is I would not recommend that he go to the Chase owner, which was Daniel, and try to get like Ayuk, because he's probably not going to give him up. So maybe I'm not really even seeing if he believes in Stephon Diggs, he probably could go to Cisco Kid, who is Ken, and maybe trade him. He does have Purdy and Herbert. It's kind of a weak quarterback room here, but we'll see. He could possibly go to Dave Man, uh, my boy David, and pull a trade with him for Joe Burrow because he does have Trevor Lawrence. So he lit quarterback slide, and he took a quarterback late after this backup quarterback run here that had Dak Prescott in the mix. But we see Tua went, and then backup Jared Goff, backup Jaden Daniels for myself. I did reach up and grab Daniels a couple of rounds before ADP because I saw these quarterbacks going off the board. I did not want to risk it. Like I said in a previous episode, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. So we see he got Hollywood Brown, and this is kind of where I'm talking about as far as rookie mistakes. Okay. We have an injured player here in Hollywood Brown. We've got an injured player here in TJ Hawkinson. We've got a guy who's out in Kendre Miller. So he's got three different players who could be placed on IR. Here's the problem. We only have two IR spots. So he has three roster spots that are taken up right now. He can move Hawkinson and Brown to the IR until they get better, until they get off. He's going to be taking up an IR spot for about 4 weeks with Hawkinson. Now, I don't mind the Hawkinson pick. If you have a belief in Hawkinson, that's great. He's got Kyle Pitts. So if by week 4 we don't see Pitts paying off, then when Hawkinson gets back, hopefully weeks 5 or 6, when he gets back, actually, sorry, week 5 or 7. And before I forget, I got to stop and thank Zia of Lafayette for hosting our draft that made all this possible. So thank you, Zia. I appreciate you greatly. You remember, guys, you can find them at 235 Ducey Road in Lafayette, Louisiana. Go down there and you show them proof of subscription to this channel, and you can get one free appetizer for the table. Okay, your choice, whatever you want, appetizer for the table. Make sure you go down there, check them out, and make sure that any catering that you need is taken care of by Zia. The great ribs, call them up, 337-403, I'm sorry, 406-0013. Talk to Andy or anybody who's down there, and they will hook you up with some great catering food, ribs, rotisserie chicken, hummus. The hummus is off the chain. My wife will attest to that. So y'all make sure that you go down there and check them out at 235 Duce Road, Lafayette, Louisiana, 337-406-0013 for catering. And if you show them proof of subscription to this channel, you will get one free appetizer for the table of your choice. So back to the draft. Down, like I said, he can move Hawkinson, and by week 7, when Hawk gets back, because they have a bye week in week 6, if I'm not mistaken. Now he took Burton from Cincy, so he's got kind of a stack. If something happens to Chase, if something happens to Higgins, possibly Burton popping up there, but that's going to be a wait and see. Quentin Johnston's an interesting pick. We haven't really heard any good things come out of camp, so I will be talking to Blaze about that one, and maybe get him a better bench wide receiver if someone is out there. We'll see how it goes. Kendra Miller. Now the Rico Dowdle pick. I love in the Rico Dowdle. Even though he is a Dallas fan, I know it pains me to speak favorably of any Dallas player, but I got to tell you what I'm thinking here. I got to be honest with you guys. I think Rico Dowdle is the best running back in that backfield at this time of their careers. Yes, I know they have Dalvin Cook, and I know they brought back Zeke, but those guys are both hitching a ride with Jerry Jones on his, retirement home bus on the way to the stadium. Okay. So I think they all carpool together because they don't feel like driving. But Rico Dowdle is the more explosive back. Now, he's not going to be asked to shoulder the entire workload. He is not a workhorse back. And what I see in Rico Dowdle is what everyone realized about Tony Pollard back in 22 when he had that magical season that made him the RB6 on the season and made everybody take him back into the first, top into the second the following year, only to be let down because he wasn't a workhorse back. That's why I like Tony Pollard this year in Tennessee, where he's splitting time with Tajay Spears. So the Spears pick, this Spears pick could have very well been Tony Pollard. I see them both as interchangeable, as the coach does, and he has voiced that before publicly. So that is Blaze's, we call him Blazer. This is Blazer's picks here. This is his team, and we'll keep track and let you know how he's doing this upcoming season. Now, over to my man Thomas, number 1 overall pick. He was not ready for this. He did not want it. He actually wanted the 12th pick. Now, I can only speculate. I know I myself view the first pick as the decision maker of the league. So when you take that first overall pick, that sets the tone for the rest of the that first round. So if he had taken Christian McCaffrey, that would have thrown someone else into making a choice between Tyreek Hill or CeeDee Lamb, and then so forth, so on down the line. And then on the way back, he's got to make a decision. Does he want to go up and get a Nico Collins, Michael Pittman, or does he want to go as he went and go Jonathan Taylor, who fell way farther than he should have. Getting this Taylor Pachenko combo here was absolutely phenomenal. I love these picks. Very similar to what I did here with Robinson and Barkley. Now, I took Barkley. I was eyeing Pachenko, but when Barkley fell that far, I'm taking Barkley because he is behind a much improved offensive line. Even though Jason Kelsey is gone this year from center, I do think that they're going to rely a little more heavily on the run. They're going to get a lot more opportunities to score touchdowns. And I'm not that scared of Jalen Hurts vulturing touchdowns from Saquon Barkley, because I don't think that they're going to be at the 2 or the 3 like they were last year, because Barkley can actually punch it in the end zone, unlike DeAndre Swift, who I don't like. I don't care for, and him being taken in the 4th here by Nick, yeah, I think he could have made a better pick, but that's me. Like personally, right here, I would have probably, if I wanted to go running back in this spot, I would have gone Joe Mixon. That would have been my pick if I was taking a dead zone running back, because remember the dead zone is rounds 4, 5, 6. So that dead zone running back there, I definitely would have taken Mixon over Swift in that position, but that's me. Now, the remaining 3 picks that he took consecutively, all wide receivers. So he was setting up his wide receiver room. He's got a good anchor here, so he's got a good foundation. Just the way that we lay a foundation with our relationship with Jesus Christ for the rest of our life, to rely on him to be the foundation, and then we build up the walls around that foundation. He's building up here with Devontae Adams, DK Metcalf, and Christian Kirk. Now, the Kirk pick, I don't know. I'm not as convinced as other people about Christian Kirk. I know I'm kind of caught up in the whole bright new shiny Brian Thomas Jr., the rookie out of LSU, field stretcher. I like him a lot more than I like Christian Kirk, but Kirk will be the number 1 wide receiver in this offense. And I think a lot of my hesitation also comes from the fact that I just don't believe in that Trevor Lawrence is what everyone thinks he is going to be. So just me. Now, the Anthony Richardson pick here, I will tell you right now from Thomas's mouth, was influenced by my Kyler Murray pick here in the 6th. Now, I took Kyler. I could not allow Dave to get a stack. And this is why you watch the board and be aware of it when you're doing your fantasy draft, is that he took McBride. He did not have a quarterback, and quarterbacks were starting to go off the board, the high level ones. So I decided I like Kyler Murray anyway. I wanted to take him. I could have gone Anthony Richardson and gotten the stack I could have taken Anthony Richardson, gotten the stack with Michael Pittman, but there's something about Anthony Richardson that just worries me. The fact that he's only played 17 games of football since high school. That's right, since high school. Jaden Daniels coming out has played like at least double the amount of games that Anthony Richardson has since he got out of high school. So I'm not that jacked that we've seen a good glimpse of what Anthony Richardson can be. He is an absolute physical specimen, a great athlete, but I don't see it happening this year, maybe next year. And who knows? I mean, he might break fantasy football this year. We don't know. Mark Ingram as Thomas's tight end. He passed on all these other tight ends here. So getting getting Evan Ingram in the 8th round, not a bad pick if you're waiting on tight end. Ferguson went early, Njoku, kind of a little early. But having Ingram fall that far, that's a nice value pick right there. And then we see Brian Robinson Jr. Now he's able to wait on running back this late because he took 2 dynamic running backs early in Taylor and Pachenko. And then Curtis Samuel, that's an early season wide receiver 1. We do not know who Buffalo's wide receiver 1 will be because we don't know what the Buffalo offense is going to look like this year. We saw a glimpse of it last year when they changed OCs toward the end of the year that made Stephon Diggs expendable and basically irrelevant for the last 5 weeks of the season, and he just fell off the cliff. It'll leave a lot of people to speculate that the reason he fell off is because he's washed. So if he is, then Ken and Cisco Kid is in for a rude awakening. But if he isn't, and he does still have what it takes, then that's a great pick. Jerome Ford here with Cleveland, the de facto RB1 with Cleveland until Nick Chubb comes off of IR, and then we're going to see how that plays out. But for the foreseeable future, that is a really good pick. It's a good insurance back to get. Josh Downs, I don't know. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, this is basically just because he has Anthony Richardson and he wanted somebody to pair with him. So we'll see how that one works out. Julio McLaughlin, running back out of Denver. If you didn't have faith in taking Javonte Williams, which a lot of people didn't, a lot of people are still, kind of that Missouri mentality of you got to show me, which I was born in Springfield, so I kind of got a little bit of that in me. Pop Douglas, Demario Douglas down here, wide receiver with New England. Look, we don't know what New England is going to be. It's a crapshoot when it comes to their wide receiver room. So we'll see how that works itself out. And then Deshaun Watson here, as his backup. Look, Watson is a dart throw if I've ever seen one. We don't know what we're getting out of him. 1 minute he's phenomenal, and the next minute he's garbage. And it could be on back-to-back plays, which is crazy to think of, considering how dominant he was when he was with Houston prior to all the scandal that broke and him, being out 1.5 years or whatever he was, and then going to Cleveland. We have not seen a good consecutive Deshaun Watson in Cleveland, and everybody is still waiting for it. I think this year is that make or break year for Deshaun Watson, whether he's going to be something or not. So that is a first-timer versus a veteran. So we see the difference here. Basically, when we get down to the Joe Burrow pick, is basically where we start seeing the difference. And the first 6 picks, like, cool, I'm down. He's very balanced. He got his tight end, he's got his quarterback, he's got his starting running backs, and he got his starting wide receivers. The thing that I don't think Blaze took into consideration when he was doing this is the fact of the scoring of the league. So the scoring of the league is PPR. So points per reception. So he will learn this. He's a really smart guy. A lot smarter than I am book wise. I'll tell you that right now. But he will learn that, when you're in a PPR You kind of want to get those guys who are going to be in a high-powered offense. They're going to get a lot of volume. If their running backs are somewhat involved in the passing game, if possible, or they're just going to get a lot of volume, like Jonathan Taylor and Pachenko, we know is involved in the passing game. So when you look down here and you see, Joe Burrow and Hollywood Brown and Keon Coleman. Now, Keon Coleman is a good pick, just with some fact, like I said, with Curtis Samuel, we don't know what the Buffalo offense is going to look like. Keon Coleman is a flashy new rookie. Everybody's hyped on. So he may be somebody who develops later in the season. Remember, rookie wide receivers do have value later in the season. So this is something that if I was going to be targeting Keon Coleman, I would probably wait until week 4 and see how he's doing. If I see a flash, if I see, that little glimmer of something that he could become, but he's not really consistent, I would probably make a mid-season play to trade for him in hopes that he develops later in the season. Now, making a mid-season play when you're doing trades, the thought process behind that is the fact that a player has not lived up to expectation. The owner of that player is getting disgusted, is getting tired of waiting for their investment to pay off, and they're looking to move them. Some guys are willing to hold on to them. Other guys want to win now, or they need to win now. So if you're in a good position, if you're starting out 3-1 or 4-0, and you get somebody who has someone like this on their squad, and they're sitting there at 0-4 or 1-3, then they could be really prime for a trade that you could get this guy on the cheap. And that's something I will also be talking to Blaze about to make sure that he doesn't get taken advantage of. I have told him privately, and I will say this publicly, I am doing everything that I can to not trade with Blaze, so that nobody thinks that I'm trying to take advantage of him. And I've asked him to inform me if he is approached with any trade offers, so I don't have to do something that I've never done as commissioner, and that is veto a trade. So that is our Zia League draft board for the 2024 season. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know how everybody did. While I had that up there, I hope that you were able to peruse and see who else had a good draft. So let me know down below. Subscribe, like, share, all that kind of good stuff. And while I'm talking about it, take a little sip real quick. I do need to thank Keller's Bakery and my boy Dusty Shores for bringing some amazing sweets last night. You guys know I got a sweet tooth. I got a sweet 17th. So I'm very thankful for Dusty always bringing the sweets and the good things from Keller's Bakery. Remember, you can find them at 627 Lafayette Street down in Youngsville, Louisiana. If you need something, baked goods, pies, cakes, remember, King Cakes year-round, as long as they're open. Go down there, check them out. It doesn't have to just be Mardi Gras. They do shut down right after Mardi Gras, if I'm not mistaken. Take a little break because King Cake season is a busy season down here in South Louisiana. So go down there, check them out. 627 Lafayette Street, Youngsville, Louisiana. And they are open from Tuesday to Saturday, 6 to 3. And remember, just like Zia, if you show them proof of the subscription to this channel, you can go down there and for no purchase necessary, 2 free cookies just for you. From me to you, enjoy them. And trust me, they are delicious. I had some good little birthday cookies and some awesome chocolate chip cookies. I love chocolate chip cookies. So they have amazing cookies down there. Go down there, check them out. Get you 2 free cookies. While you're down there, pick up some donuts or something for the family just so they don't feel left out. Okay. So make sure you're doing that. Now, start sets week 1. Now, when I do start sets, let me preference this by saying my start sets are going to be guys who you probably wouldn't uh, be starting typically because the name cachet just isn't there. So these are guys that you're probably not thinking of that you need to. Okay. And then the sit category, guys who you may be really high on, but because of matchup, you might want to temper expectations and sit these guys. So my quarterback start of the week or starts of the week, I'm going to give you 3. I normally only give you 2, but I'm going to give you 3 this week because 2 of them are facing each other, and it's supposed to be a very high scoring affair. So definitely worth a start. If you drafted Tua, he may be your backup. He was far enough down to be some people's backups, but he is facing Jacksonville this week. And Jacksonville defense is not known for stopping anyone. So definitely worth a start, especially if you're facing the Jalen Waddle owner or the Tyreek Hill owner. Remember, guys, check your matchup and play your matchup. Okay. If you got the adjoining quarterback to a wide receiver 1 who you're facing, you want to get the points for that player, unless you have a top flight quarterback, the likes of Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, guys like that. If you have guys like that on your roster, definitely starting them. Okay, you're drafting these guys to start. Okay, that's why you drafted them. So start them without fear. Okay, don't have any hesitation in starting these guys. But if you've got somebody like Brock Purdy, if you drafted him and then you drafted Tua, maybe you waited late on quarterback, I would definitely look at Tua versus Jacksonville. My other 2 guys, they're facing each other. It's Matthew Stafford versus Detroit, and of course, Jared Goff versus the Rams. Now, this is a home game for Detroit, and we all know from last season that Jared Goff is absolutely unstoppable at home in the dome. Thankfully for Lions fans, most of, I believe, all but one game for the Lions this year is in a dome of some sort. So because he plays in the NFC North, really the only game that he has to worry about is the game at Soldier Field in Chicago. And if I'm not mistaken, that's early, so he doesn't have to worry about the snow. So he won't be playing in snow. He's going to be playing in the dome. And he is definitely going to be on fire this year. Make sure that you're starting Jared Goff if you have him on your roster, especially, again, if you're facing the Amon-Ra St. Brown owner or the Sam Laporta owner, because he is going to be lighting those guys up big time with targets. So, Zamir White versus the Chargers is my first start running back of the year. And I'm going total whiteout on running backs. So Zamir White versus the Chargers, and I hate to say this, but Rachaad White for Tampa Bay versus my Washington team, my Washington Redskins. I know they're Commanders. I'm not going to talk about that or get into it, but anyway, they will always be the Redskins to me till the day I die. So Rachaad White versus Washington. Look, Washington gave up a good bit of its defense, and we're not really sure what that defense looks like this year. So Rachaad White figures to be highly involved, not only in the run game, but a good bit of passing as well. So you might get a few dump offs here and there. So definitely something to take advantage of. Zamir White with the Chargers. Look, the Chargers, they're not stopping anybody. That's why they're going to be nothing but run. They're going to want to be nothing but run, but they're probably going to have to pass. That's why I was high on Levitt Conkey. going into the draft season. So if you have Lad McConkey, definitely be starting him as well. He did not make my start sits, however, just because I don't know what the Raiders defense looks like, and I'm not really sure what the Chargers offense is going to look like. That's more the thing of that as opposed to the Raiders defense. So wide receiver. Look, guys, any Packer wide receiver this week. They're playing Philly. It's on Friday in Rio de Janeiro. First ever game in Brazil. So make sure that you're setting your lineup accordingly. Remember, Thursday night, Chiefs, Ravens, a lot of fantasy implications going on in that game, as well as the Friday game with Green Bay and Philly. But yeah, if you have a Packer wide receiver, Philly's secondary is not going to be stopping them. And we're not really sure who's the number one is going to be. It could be Christian Watson. It could be Jalen Reed. It could be Romeo Dobbs. Shoot, it could be Dontavian Wicks this week. We don't know. But if you have a flex position and you need it open, you're not really sure about who you have right now, and you have a Green Bay wide receiver on your roster, start them. Okay. And again, I hate to say it, but because of the weak defense at Washington, I'm putting Chris Godwin as my start of the week for wide receiver this week as well. Also, my start of the week at tight end, Greg Dulcich versus Seattle. Look, Dulcich is with the Denver Broncos. They've got Bo Nix, a rookie quarterback under center. And we all know that the best friend for a rookie quarterback is a pass catching tight end that can actually do something. So make sure that you're doing that. Okay. Sorry, guys. Got a call from my son. So, let's see. Okay, so for my sits of the week, I don't know where that came. Okay, so sits of the week. Now, guys, when I'm doing these start sets, I'm going off of strength of schedule. Okay. So strength of schedule, week one, I'm gonna let you know who has the worst matchups. Now, week one is kind of weird this year because week one, you've got a lot of really high powered offenses against really good defenses. So it's gonna kind of be a little dicey. You got Kansas City versus Baltimore, and you got San Francisco versus the Jets on Monday Night Football. I'm not going to tell you to sit Patrick Mahomes. I'm not going to tell you to sit Dak Prescott, even though he's going up against Cleveland. I'm not going to tell you to sit Kyler Murray because he's going up against Buffalo. And I'm definitely not telling you to sit Lamar because he's going up against KC. What I will tell you is that you might want to have a second thought about Brock Purdy versus the Jets. It's going to be a really slow game. It possibly just a lot of Christian McCaffrey. I know that they want to come out and make a statement, but against the Jets, I'm not too sure how that's going to go. Let's see. Now, Joe Burrow versus New England. Look, I'm wheels up on Joe Burrow versus New England. So I'm not even sweating that. Yeah, there's just a lot of good matchups. I will tell you guys, uh, maybe temper expectations in the quarterback room for Patrick Mahomes, for Brock Purdy, for Dak, for Kyler, and for Lamar. Those guys are all facing top flight defenses in week 1. Okay. Running back. So running backs, look, Breece Hall, if you have Breece Hall, I'm not going to tell you to sit him, but I will tell you to temper expectations. I will, however, tell you to sit Brian Robinson Jr. They are facing Tampa Bay, who is a very stingy run defense, always has been. Also, if you're, let's see, Pittsburgh versus, let's see, versus Atlanta's run defense. Look, guys, if you have Najee, maybe sit him. If you've got Najee Harris, if you, Jalen Warren's dealing with a hamstring injury, so I know that Najee's going to get a lot more run than he normally would be. But Atlanta's defense really has been a decent defense when it comes to stopping the run. Packers versus Philly, I'll tell you right now to go ahead and sit. Brain fart here. Josh Jacobs. So Josh Jacobs, you might want to hold off just a little bit before you start the Josh Jacobs experience this year. Also, Carolina Panthers, if for whatever reason you're trying to throw Chuba Hubbard out there, Chuba Hubbard, I really probably would hold on to him because they are facing New Orleans, who is going to be a very starch run defense this year. Looking at wide receiver. If you're thinking about starting George Pickens, look, I don't know what it's going to be, so I would go ahead and suggest that you sit George Pickens, as well as Deontay Johnson. So let's go ahead and we'll call Deontay Johnson, George Pickens as our sits of the week, and I'll have defenses for you next week as well as kickers. We really don't do that in my league of records, so I'm going to wait until things kind of start to pan out a little better, and we'll get you guys that information next time. So, guys, I hope this has been informative. I hope I helped you out. If you've got questions about your league, about your lineup, make sure down below when you subscribe, like, and share, smash the notification bell to make sure that you get updated on all the content that I'm putting out. Leave a comment. Let me know what your start sit question of the week is, because I can't touch everybody because I don't know your setups, but let me know what kind of league you're in and what dilemma you're having when it comes to start sets. Make sure you set those lineups, and remember, spend time with the Lord and make sure that you are building that good foundation the same way that you did when you did your draft this past weekend. So, guys, we will see you next time. And remember, football's good, but God is greater. We'll see you guys next time on Faith in Football. Have a blessed day.